Hey guys, you're welcome back to my channel today. Thank you so much for stopping by. In my last video, we drafted out a pattern for this sweetheart neckline dress and a keyhole yoke. Yeah, so this is a 2-in-1 tutorial, and this is the sewing version of this tutorial. If you've not seen the pattern drafting tutorial, I'm going to leave the link in the comment section. Go ahead and watch it before you come join us on this particular one. It's going to help you understand better. So for the front pattern, I went ahead to iron my wording to it and my hairstay, and this is what I have. What I'm going to do is to go ahead and sew them using my 1/2 inch allowance that I left while I was drafting. So I'm going to sew all the way following the shape that I have on the wording. Okay, I'll just follow the shape and I'll sew with 1/2 inch. After sewing, I'm going to iron the seam open. For the back piece, guys, go ahead and notch because it looks the same. So if you can notch the base, go ahead and notch it just so you don't mix the fabric together. I'm going to go ahead and pin my lining piece to the main fabric. After pinning, I'll go ahead and sew the neckline, the zipper area and the side, and I'm going to turn everything inside out through the base, and I'm going to iron it flat. So for the yoke, guys, I also went ahead to cut out my lining piece, and this is the front. The center front is on fold. I'm going to open it up like this, and I'll place my lining piece on each right side. I'm going to pin all the way around, and I'm going to go ahead and sew. I'll sew the neckline, I'll sew the keyhole area, okay, and I'll sew the side, but I'm not going to sew the shoulder and the armhole. I'm going to leave that part for now. So these are the two back pieces. Also, I'm going to arrange everything in place. I'll place my lining on the right side of my main fabric, and I'll pin all the way around. After pinning, I'm going to go ahead to sew the neckline, the zipper area and the side. I'm also going to close the base. Okay, so the only place I'm not going to sew is the shoulder area and the armhole area. After sewing, I'm going to go ahead and iron everything in place. So guys, after sewing the front piece in place, this is what I had. I went ahead to open up the seam and I ironed it flat. So once I open it to the right side, this is what it looks like. So you can see how the bust area is already standing. I went ahead to repeat the same thing for my lining piece. So I ironed hairstay to my lining piece, and I went ahead to sew using the 1/2 inch allowance. After sewing, I ironed the seam allowance open. So this is my lining piece. Okay, after sewing, this is what it looks like. What I'm going to do now is to sew both the lining and the main fabric together. So I'm going to place them on each other, right sides facing right sides, and I'm going to pin all the way around. After pinning, I'm going to go ahead and sew. So make sure you follow the neckline, what we drafted. Go ahead and sew on it. So I'll sew the neckline, I'll sew the side, and I'll turn it inside out through the base. I'm not going to sew the base because we're going to attach that part to the skirt. So I've gone ahead to sew the back piece in place, and I turned it to the right side. I also went ahead to iron it flat, and this is what it looks like. What I'm going to do is to take in my darts. To do that, I'll first of all take out the zipper allowance that I have left on the waist area. From there, I'm going to go in by half of my nipple to nipple measurement. I'll indicate that, and I'll rule a straight line to the upper part of this blouse. So this is an off shoulder. That is why I'm extending my darts to the start of my fabric. So I took 1/2 inch on both sides of this straight line. I'm going to connect like this. After connecting, I'll repeat the same thing for the other fabric. and then I'll head over to my sewing machine and I'm going to stitch the dart in place. After stitching, I'll go ahead and iron it flat. After taking in my darts, guys, this is what it looks like. I had to sew the lining piece with the skirt area, so this is the back piece. I also went ahead to take in my dart for the back. So for the back piece, remember we have two pieces. So what I'm going to do is to sew the upper part of the back piece and the lower part together. Okay, so make sure that your dart matches. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is to open the one part of the skirt part, and then I'm going to place the one that is meant for it, as you can see, and then I'm going to pin. After pinning, I'll head over to my sewing machine and I'll sew. So guys, I've gone ahead to do that. Okay, I used half an inch to stitch the skirts and the upper bodice together, and this is what I have for both sides. The next thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and fix my zipper. Okay, go ahead and determine how long you want your zipper to be, and you can also determine how long you want your slit to be if you want a slit. Okay, so I've gone ahead to fix my zipper and this is what it looks like. Okay, I also went ahead to open up my slit. Okay, the length of my slit is about 20 inches. So this is what I have for the back. I went ahead to iron the slit in place and it's looking all flat and neat. So the next thing I'm going to do is to work on the front. So for the front, guys, I've gone ahead to turn it with my lining and I've also gone ahead to take in my dart. After turning the upper bodice with the lining, this is what it looks like. So what I'm going to do is to fold it into two, as you can see, and I'm going to go ahead and mark the middle point. Okay, I'll use my chalk to indicate where the center is, and I'll repeat the same thing for the skirt. I'll fold the skirt into two and I'll mark the center. After doing that, guys, I'm going to place both midpoint together. After placing the upper bodice and the skirt, I'm just going to go ahead and sew with my half an inch allowance. After sewing, guys, this is what I have. Okay, you can see that the dart aligns. So the next thing I'm going to do is to join both front and back piece together. So I'm going to place them together, right sides facing right sides, as you can see, and I'm going to go ahead and stitch using my stitching allowance. So remember, I left 1.5 inches as my stitching allowance, and I've already turned my fabric using my lining with half an inch. So I'm going to use 1 inch to sew all the way. So I've gone ahead to also turn the yoke using my lining, and this is what it looks like. So I have the two back piece and the front piece. What I'm going to do is to fix my zipper to the back piece. So I left 1.5 inches as my zipper allowance. I'm going to use it to sew my zipper in place. So I'll be fixing the zipper. Okay, so the next thing we'll do is to cut out our sleeves. So I have this basic sleeves pattern. This is what I'm going to use to draft out the sleeves for this tutorial. So first of all, go ahead and draft out your basic sleeves. Okay, so I'm going to place these basic sleeves on my fabric and I'm just going to extend it. That is all. So what I'll do is to bring in my fabric and I'm going to fold my fabric into two. After doing that, I'm going to place the sleeves on the closed end of the fabric. Okay, so I've gone ahead to fold my fabric. I'm going to place this pattern on this closed edge of the fabric and I'm going to pin all the way around to secure it. After pinning, I'm going to go ahead and extend these sleeves. So if the length of your sleeves is not enough, go ahead and extend it. But what I have here is enough for the length of the sleeves that I'm working with. Okay, so I'm not going to add any stitching allowance to the base of the sleeves. What I'm going to do is to mark the length of my sleeves, which is 23 inches, and the length I'm working with is 22 inches. So I have 1 inch to stitch the lining and the main fabric. okay, and also to sew the fabric, the sleeves to the main bodice. So the next thing I'll do is to extend this part of the sleeves by 2 inches. You can do 1 inch, but the armhole I'm working with is quite big, so that is why I extended it by 2 inches. Okay, I will indicate the 2 inches as you can see. So I'm extending the wideness of this sleeves by 9 inches. Okay, so it depends on how big you want the sleeves to be, but this 9 inches is enough for me. So what I'm going to do is to slant from the base of the sleeves to meet this 2 inches extension, as you can see. Okay, so after doing that, I'm going to use my chalk to trace out the armhole area of these sleeves exactly as it is, so we don't need to add anything to that area. After extending, guys, I'm going to go in again just so everything is okay. So after doing that, I'm going to go ahead and cut, and I'll notch the center of my sleeves. Okay, so this is what I have for the sleeves. So I've gone ahead to place the fabric on my lining piece also, and I went ahead to cut out two of it. Okay, so I'll remove my pattern paper and I'll open up the sleeves for you guys to see. So this is what I have. What I'm going to do now is to turn the sleeves using my lining. So I'm going to place my lining piece on the right side of the main piece, and I'm going to go ahead and sew the base. After sewing, I'll turn it to the right side and I'll iron everything in place. So guys, I've gone ahead to sew my zipper in place, and this is what it looks like. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is to bring back my front piece, and I'm going to join the shoulders together. So to do that, I'm going to open up the front shoulder. As you can see, I'll also open the back shoulder, and I'm going to place them lining to lining and fabric to fabric. Okay, I'm going to secure everything. After securing it, I'll turn it over, and then I'm going to go ahead and sew. Okay, after sewing, I'll repeat the same process for the other side of the shoulder. I'm doing this just so the rough edges of this shoulder area will be concealed inside, and this is what I have after joining the shoulders together. Okay, you can see that our yoke is coming together. The next thing I'm going to do is to bring in my sleeves. I've already gone ahead to turn my sleeves using my lining, and you can see that the base is neat. So what I'm going to do is to now sew the sleeves to the armhole area of this yoke. So I'm going to open the yoke up, and I'm going to place the center of the sleeves on the center of this yoke. So the center of this yoke is the part, that's the shoulder area that I joined together. So I'm just going to sew the sleeves all the way around. After doing it for this armhole area, I'll repeat the same thing for the other armhole area. So guys, I've gone ahead to stitch the sleeves down, and this is what I have. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is to close the sides of this yoke. So I'm going to arrange everything in place. As you can see, remember I left 1 inch for my stitching allowance. So I'm going to sew from the base of the sleeves to the armhole area. Make sure you place your round armhole measurement divided by 2 on the armhole area. I'll sew from the base of the sleeves to the armhole area, and from there I'm going to sew in the 1 inch that I left as my stitching allowance. Okay, so I've gone ahead to do that, and I turned the yoke inside out, guys, and this is what I have. You can see that the sides are lined. There's no excess on any of the piece. So yeah guys, that is all for this tutorial. I hope it was helpful. Don't forget to like this video, leave your questions in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.